Hello, I'm Violet Blitz, the game designer behind Witches of Winter, and this is Witch Talk number 2, a series where I talk about all the cool inspirations and stuff happening in this game. If I accidentally call it Witch Game, that's just my shorthand for it, but the name is Witches of Winter. You can find it on GameFound. We're going to be launching a Kickstarter in September. We also recently passed 100 followers. Thank you for that. If you are interested, please give us a follow so you can hear more about the campaign. Today I'm going to be talking about how magic works in this setting. So if you haven't heard of Witches of Winter at all, it's a game about witchcraft in post-climate collapse North America. So after terrible storms and flooding have kind of stretched the government thin enough to dissolve and not be able to control anything anymore, people have to begin to fend for themselves. They live in smaller communities called enclaves with just enough mostly canned food to survive on, as a lot of the land is no longer tenable. But the people who do go out on that land, brave the seasons, brave all the weird new magical monsters that have appeared, are called witches. The people who interact with the world in not necessarily magical ways, though most of them, and if you're playing a PC in this game, you're playing a witch, most of them can cast magic, mechanically speaking. But anyone who kind of goes out and braves the wilderness might be called a witch in this world. But let me read a bit from the book about how magic works, and then I'll get into some details. So here's kind of your first intro to it. In the setting overview, magic is small. Magic isn't new. It's always been practiced by those on the margins. Recipes passed down through generations, little superstitions and sayings to keep out ghosts, rituals to appease ancestors and calm storms. It's only more prevalent now, with more turning to magic as a way to interface with the chaotic world around them. Magic isn't something that can be written in books or inscribed in defined spells, though some may try. See the Imbric Academy, which we'll talk more about later. It's something evoked in the subtle interactions of humans and the world around them. Care, tradition, and creativity empower magic, but it's very rare for human-channeled magic to have sweeping effects over a large area or multiple people. Most witches can use magic to heal, conceal, or sense beyond sight if they have the right materials. Most spells will only target one person or small area. So instead of a game like Dungeons & Dragons where you have a spell book and it says, alright, this is what the spell does, this is how much it costs, magic in Witches of Winter is a lot more flexible. There are 8 actions that are kind of your skills or your attributes for the game, and all of them can be used in both mundane and magical ways. Like there's charm, for example, which both means to charm someone with your personality, like befriend someone, but also literally charm them with magic, either to beguile and intrigue them, or to give them a buff, like charm their sword, that kind of charm. And all 8 of these have those kind of dual meanings that let you use them with mundane or magical means, as we call them. Which all that means is saying, is the thing your character is doing magical? Are they attempting to cast magic? And then the way magic works in this world is it is not simply something contained within you. It is not something you know from a spellbook. It is something that is drawn from the world around you. And there's 12 different arts, which are the kind of classes of Witch Game, which each are a different way that you cast magic, a different way that you interact with the world. It's not about what magic you cast. It's not, can you cast fireballs? It's, do you use tarot cards? Do you use interacting with the seasons and predicting the weather? Do you use magical stones or see prophecies in the stars, etc.? Which are all kind of inspired by real-world traditions of witchcraft and traditions of magic throughout the world. Which is obviously this game is set in a version of the real world, and a lot of research has gone into what different traditions exist and how we can represent them in different ways, but also make them very flexible. So there's a lot of ways that the world can affect your magic, which I kind of previewed in the last episode of Witch Talk. But let's talk about seasons and reagents, which are 2 of the most common ways. So there are 8 seasons in Witches of Winter, which are named after the 8 Wiccan Sabbats. So it's Astara, Beltane, Litha, Lugnasa, Mabon, Samhain, Yule, and Imbolc. Oh my god, I remembered all of them. And as you can see here, they're each attached to a different action in the game. Basically, the seasons each have an effect on the world around them. They have effect on you as the witch. They make everybody in the world feel a certain way a little stronger. Like when it is Yule, for example, everyone is kind of cold and hunkering down and protective of their own materials. That is when break is a more effective thing to use. Basically, you size up your fate die. You can listen to that last video to hear more about fate dice. You size up your fate die in Yule because your magic is affected by the intentions and what is happening in the world around you. The other interesting thing about seasons is they don't swap every few months. Every single day, the storyteller will roll a die, roll a d8, and determine the season for that day, because the climate is so messed up that it is no longer a consistent cycle. Things just kind of happen randomly or unpredictably, unless you're a Witch of Seasons, in which case you might be able to predict a little bit and have an impact on that roll. There's also alternative rules for if you want to play a slightly more cyclical version of these seasons. There's still not one after another, but the die roll is slightly different to be like, okay, do you move ahead one or two, or move back one instead of just jumping to a random one? Though I think both ways are very fun and are very in-setting. And then the other way that the natural world interacts with your magic is through a system called Reagents. Again, if you listened to the last video, you heard me talk about a thing called advantages. When your fate die is higher than your danger die, or higher than your danger target, you might get some advantages, which we also call stars because that's the symbol for them in this game. And you can spend stars to spend your reagents. And reagents are a whole list. There's over 24 of them in the game. There's exactly 24 right now, but there's more coming out in supplemental materials if you look at the campaign when that eventually comes out. That allow you to have extra effects on your roll, whether you succeed or fail. So you can spend those advantages to spend whatever reagents you have. You'll start with 4, and you can pick up a lot throughout the game. And some will like protect you from damage. Some will heal you a little bit. Some will make the effects of your success permanent, or even increase the outgoing damage from whatever you do. Some will help you find a clue, find something useful, find a little trinket that you can trade later. And they're all, like the seasons are inspired by Wiccan Sabbats, and like the arts are inspired by different traditions. These reagents are all inspired by how witches in the real world witches and, traditional medicines across the world have used some of these herbs, real world herbs, for medicinal purposes and for magical purposes. So they each have a little description and then an ability of something they do. And that's very fun. That's like a lot of the customization of the magic in this game is like, you'll cast a spell and then you'll get a bunch of advantages and say, okay, I want the spell to be permanent. I want it to affect someone else with this reagent. I want it to deal some extra damage with Wolfsbane or something. So that's a very fun part of the game, is picking up reagents, interacting with them, and if you're playing a Witch of Herbs, which is another one of the arts, you get extra reagents. You get to use them in extra ways. We have a character in our Witch is a Winter campaign over on Paralog who has the herbs ability Flower Skin, where they're literally growing ivy off of their skin, which they can use as a reagent. Yes, so very fun stuff, and that actual play will be out later. But go check out Witches of Winter if you're interested in any of this and how magic interacts with the world around you. Please give us a follow. And also, I just mentioned I have this actual play TTRPG podcast called Paralog. We just finished season 1, which is a very fun story about teenage superheroes in the game Masks. It's very high-stakes superhero drama, and then even higher stakes teenage melodrama is what I like to say. That all is done. 24 episodes of that just wrapped, and it's such a fun listen, so please go listen to that as well. Thank you for watching, and I will see y'all next time.